call to order this second meeting of the Auburn Water District's Nominating Committee. It is August 8th at 5:45 p.m. at the district office. And let's do a quick roll call. I'm Mary Sylvester, the convener and president of the Board of Trustees.
I'm Tiz Crowley. I'm the Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commissioner, representing the Auburn Water District's Board of Trustees, of which I'm a member.
Jason Paulina, trustee. Sid Hazelton, water superintendent.
Okay, we're in our second meeting, and the first discussion is listed here, and we will have that, but I've been most recently advised that our first business is a motion to reconsider the vote to submit all three names. That was approved at the previous meeting, and that upon advice of legal counsel has been assessed to be not in compliance with the approved policy. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to reconsider that vote.
I'll make that motion to reconsider the vote.
Is there a second?
I'll second it if it's noted that that's done based on legal advice.
Yes, that was based on legal advice. All those in favor? Okay. We should clarify, I'd be happy to take minutes since I'm a convener and not a voting member. So I'm really glad we're recording this since I was busy thinking about this and not writing down the exact motion, but it is to reconsider, and it is specifying upon advice of legal counsel.
Right, it's to reconsider our decision that we submit no individual name for nomination to the Lake Auburn
to
Watershed
submit
Protection
all
Commission.
three instead of one name. Upon advice of legal counsel. Okay, so that motion carried. And Jason, motion is seconded. Passed. Okay, I have also been advised that the way to move forward with the discussion is to get a motion on the table for one name, and that the discussion can come from that. Is there a motion to advance one name?
So to advance a specific name or to
A specific name, to get a name out there.
Oh,
Or we can review the policy, the discussion about the candidates.
can we be clear on what you think that he just moved?
Well,
What did you?
In accordance with the approved process that the trustees approved, there was a to create the nomination committee to review applications and make a nomination to
Right.
AWD trustees.
so there's a motion to,
That's the motion.
So what is, I still don't understand what the motion is, because I
is to
think they're
advance
two
one
different.
name.
Well, we don't have a choice. Are you talking about one name meaning now you expect him to name it?
He's just saying we're gonna make him
Yes, we agree to follow step two,
move
basically, of
forward
the
one name.
appointment process.
Is there a second to move forward one name?
Still not sure why that's necessary. I think
Yeah,
that's
I
what
don't
we're
think-
meeting to
I
correct.
don't think
Okay.
it is, so I'm unwilling to second it,
Alright, so
and I'll
let's,
oppose the vote.
Could we say, how
So-
about a motion to follow the
Move to
application
executive.
That's the
appointment
reason
process?
we're here, is we've already
Yeah.
agreed.
okay, so we'll just assume that that's what we're doing, good. Well, we're all on the learning curve, right? Okay, so, it would seem to me that there are two courses for the next phase of this meeting, based on what I've learned. One is we can review the process, or one is we can discuss the priorities for the Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commission that we believe would help the committee, the voting members of the committee, identify a specific person. Having not been in your executive session discussion, I don't know how much of that was covered, or a person of the committee may feel that they're ready to make a motion to advance a specific name.
Or, the one that I think we need to do is I move that we go into executive discussion to determine discuss the specific candidates in order to come to a recommendation.
So it's a motion to go into executive session pursuant to,
Yeah, I have a question on the D, so I'm only gonna say 605. How about 456?
4056. Is there a second?
I'll second.
In favor? See you later.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, we're back in. Hello.
We've asked to come out of executive session
Yes.
because for some of us to make a decision, we need to have some missing information
Okay.
that is not related to the individual candidates, but
Yes.
to the process. So we have two questions, and I'm hoping if I say them incorrectly, gentlemen, I hope you correct me.
Please, yes.
The first one has to do with the seat we're trying to fill, which was John Bono's seat, and
Yes,
his term has ended,
correct.
correct? Did it end today, yesterday, a month ago?
I'm gonna look to, the clerk of the Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commission, who I hope knows the answer to that question.
July.
Okay,
So that
it's-
seat is now empty.
So that seat is now empty.
The question being,
Well, let me
go ahead.
finish. Now, so our question is, that seat is empty.
Correct.
And the only way it will get filled is by the Board of Trustees taking action.
Correct.
Okay, so the second question then is, can the Board of Trustees change this process because it was faulty? And does it, when I say change the process, I'm not talking about one piece. You know, like, as an example, Sid believes well, actually, Sid, please, you say it yourself.
What are your questions?
No, please explain what you
well,
want.
we were told that, this process was approved on June
Mhm.
5th by the trustees. And we accepted nominations for the commission. They closed on June 18th, so this was the approved process.
June 28th,
Yeah, it doesn't
June
at
28th.
5 p.m., yes.
So we received the applications, we have an approved process to move forward. So the question is, can this be modified now?
No, can it be modified? And Sid says absolutely not, nothing can
It's
happen
in
to
the
this.
email that went
All right,
to
well,
you. And the answer is, can the board process be changed at this time? No. Essentially, this paragraph, the paragraph says after this is finished, you can, but the applications were made underneath
But
this
this
process.
is making an assumption when we're changing it, that we're not opening for applicants again. This is making the assumption.
It is
that
making
we're-
that assumption,
right,
we'd have to reopen
and
applications.
so that's the assumption that I was trying to.
Well, that's what I said, so people would have to reapply again.
Yes,
But we can say that again, when you change it, you can say anybody who applied under the faulty process will automatically be considered.
No,
Because
I wouldn't think so.
no, I think
Well, then
what
we need a legal-
happens is,
you're not gonna make, then you ask them to sign the form
hold
again.
on just a minute, because from what Jim said and what is actually also practice in these matters is if the board, you'd have to bring in a report from this board, committee to the board, saying that you're going to, not move forward with any nomination.
Mhm.
At which point, the board, I would wanna get some clarification from legal counsel. It is my understanding that, and you could say you move to, change to cancel these applications in this process. I'd have to clarify this with Jim, but, and that you wish to change the process and reopen the nominations, the appointment process.
And the only part that I don't agree with is the first, I would keep those open. In other words, if there's anything in this process that's changed, anything that's in this process that's changed, that the applications we currently have will remain active.
Well, I'd
and
want
it would be
clarification
reopened.
on this.
Yes, right,
Because I
right.
think the assumption is that legal assumption, I mean, this is really important around legal assumptions, even if the
Right.
individuals
Right.
might not say, oh yeah, I assume that.
But
the legal assumption is that this was the
Right.
process in place, it was enacted in an authorized way by the board, on June 5th, and people applied while it was active. Therefore, if you wish to start all over, the board would first have to agree with you that they wanna start all over.
Right.
and the
And then they
application
would have to
process
agree
would
that they
start
would stay.
from scratch.
Well, that's not a,
But
I think they have the
to be
ability.
clarified, but I think, I would not assume,
No,
but
I
they can
wasn't assuming.
resubmit
I
their
was not-
application,
I was not
and then if
assuming.
anybody else, I mean, again, I wanna be clarified, that's a point for legal counsel as well as the board. And the board may say this process is fine with us, but they might not, I don't
Right,
know,
right,
but
we don't
that,
know
this
what
is a
they'll do.
board, but you could make that as your recommendation and, pending what legal counsel says, I mean, I truly don't know the answer to this question from the legal standpoint.
right.
And, but I would be happy to,
But question number
try
one
to
is
clarify
clear.
then what those are,
Question number one, which is the seat that we're trying to
is
appoint
now empty,
currently vacant?
correct,
And unless filled
it will
by
stay
action
empty,
of the board of directors, board of
Yes.
trustees, it will remain vacant.
it's correct.
So I didn't remember that, I didn't remember everything that we went through, I
Yeah.
didn't remember that being,
Yeah, Jim said when the term is done, the term is done.
so
You could,
absent electing someone,
On
that
Wednesday.
we won't have representation at the next meeting.
the other thing that you could do, and the board could do rather, is vote to authorize the person who just turned out, John Bono, to continue until such time as the board has elected.
How is that not appointing him?
And theoretically, could the board not say, as a temporary measure, we pick whoever, this person,
Yeah.
Jason, you
Well,
know, somebody else, I'm
But
just
I'm
saying.
gonna ask somebody to do, so that I can make clear that what, with the lawyer, because I know that everyone, due to other communities' concerns these days, is being incredibly careful to
Yeah.
not
We are,
wing it
I get it.
on good intentions, but it turns out that errors that are important. So what I'd want is for someone to write out for me, so I can make sure I have this entirely clarified, for the minutes.
So what I heard for the minutes is that it has been confirmed, although I guess not, because they didn't hear it, that this current seat is vacant as of the end of July.
Well, I'm sorry, you didn't pick it up, but he said,
I-
when the term is
right.
done, the term is
The
done.
term is done, is the term
And
is
you
done.
have to have a vote to continue anyone in that seat, and it'd be time limited.
Right.
And I assume.
So then what I'm hearing, if it's time
Yeah.
limited, it's not necessarily John Bono, it can be any person that's time limited. So instead of, if we cannot come to agreement on this, what I'm hearing as an option.
Yeah, and I'd wanna confirm.
Oh,
that, yeah.
absolutely, because I'm hearing it as an option, I can't believe it's an option, because had we known that a week ago, we could have solved that problem that way. What I'm hearing is, once the seat became vacant, that the board of trustees, without following the agreed upon process, can appoint a person to fill that seat for a limited time.
Well, let me,
Is that what you heard? Because that's what I'm hearing.
Yes, that's the.
well, that's what I believe is the case,
I'm not
because
disputing, right,
it came up in the context where if we could not get this done on August 21st,
Right.
what happens?
Right.
And Sid, you may recall, you said, well, you know, we often just let people stay on till the place is.
Right.
And I said, I think you have to have a vote to do that.
and what,
And Jim said absolutely. So that what the trustees would need to understand is that they don't fill the seat and they don't vote to continue, I mean, the idea.
is the answer though, we must continue, or can we put
It's
something?
the only way it was phrased,
Okay.
so I did not
Yeah,
ask
that's a good question, yeah.
anything else. Is, could we continue, you know, it would be the case then that the Auburn Water District would only be represented by 2 people, not 3.
Right.
And so would that be something the trustees would want?
Well, you may have found our solution though, if that's possible. So what we need to discuss though is, if the answer is,
If vote
if
is,
the answer is that the board of trustees has the authority to do 2 things. They can continue the person's term that has just ended for an X period of time. But that should, to me, the same question is, they can appoint a person for X period of time.
I wanna be sure,
Right,
so that's
right.
essentially.
Cause those are the 2 different options, right? One is that we vote to, and I'm talking about the board of trustees, vote for John Bono to continue until the process is addressed. And very honestly, if we have to pick somebody out of this, you're probably not gonna get it unless the only person you can replace is unfortunately Jason, because we're here by position. You can't replace us sadly, because I'd resign immediately if I could.
So, find someone for a limited time. Well, you know, if one of you with these questions, as you would write up the explicit questions you want me to ask the lawyer, that would help me a lot.
I thought you just did.
But, or I will type it up and make sure it's accurate,
And
so,
circulate it.
and I'll
Just
circulate it
verify
to
that
you,
The
yeah, so
wording
I'll
is everything.
write it up, write
Or
it
if you
up.
want us to do it, send it to us that assignment though, so we all do it equally. You know, if you don't wanna write it up and say, is this okay? You can write it.
Well, because I have a house full of company.
Yeah, now we're having- right.
Not to
So
take more
here,
work
right,
on
no,
you,
no,
and
no,
I
so
already
here,
have to do the
let's-
cost sharing.
Let's figure this out. So, could we have agreement of that we'll go home now and send Mary how we think the wording is, or do we wanna sit out here and hash out the wording?
I don't want Mary to have to do it. We can
Yeah.
Well,
submit it
what
to her
I would like
separately.
is, why not, I mean, because I really, you know, the cost sharing, I got two people who really wrote out exactly a draft, thank you very much, Jason,
That's what I was working on.
and you're
Lost all
working
track of
on
time.
yours, and I've gotten, another one from Casey, and I've gotten ideas and thoughts, but not in a text.
Mhm.
That would be a votable text from two other people. And you may be sending one too, so I
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
somehow
yes.
pull that together in time, and if you all, knowing the questions you have, these are essentially what other questions for the lawyer need to be asked. And I think that would be, I'm happy to do it, Jim is
Yeah,
happy
right.
to come. He can't come to the August 21st meeting because he's got another commitment, but he's happy to speak to the whole board, he's happy to come talk to this committee so that everybody understands things.
But what I'm hearing is we don't know the answer. We know the answer to one, John's seat is vacant.
It is vacant. There's
What we don't know is, can the Board of Trustees
extend
extend
him
his-
only or
his
anyone?
term,
Yeah.
his term, or and equal authority, can the Board of Trustees extend the term with any
Or,
name? So the first question is, can we extend the term? And that's, so question one is, can
and
we
I know
extend the term?
that's time limited, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
we're trying to get this done,
Right.
but there's a
Right,
meeting in September and
So,
we
and
can't.
time limited, so
Yeah.
somebody's gonna tell us the time limit, cause it's 30 days, it's not very helpful. If it's 180 days, that's probably not very helpful, but gets me out of the mess. And then the second so the one is it, can the Board of Trustees extend the term? The next question is, can the Board of Trustees identify, or whatever you wanna select, the person to fill this extended time,
Or only the incumbent.
or only the incumbent?
And are you gonna take those up and send it to me? Yeah,
Is that, but I wanna make sure that's the question, gentlemen?
It is a big part of it. I think that process wise, we're coming into some learnings and stumbling blocks in general. And one just very generic issue is that we have 3 applicants and 3 voters, and we're charged with coming out with one. And
You can't
There
find
was
one
some-
that two people agree with?
there was some on my part misunderstanding as well during the final motion where we were amending it and thinking that I swear that I heard you say, well, if you want to abstain, if you choose to send no one, that came out in the discussion. I tried to listen to it, but I couldn't hear all of it during
Yeah.
that part. But I was
And I might have missed.
in the wrong by looking at the text that was finalized and going along with it without protesting. Then again, it would maybe not have mattered because the board voted on this process and then they elected me to come here to
Right,
to
to
do
carry it
this.
out.
But we also, I think just we're coming into some disagreement about how to proceed. And I don't think scrapping the work we've done is necessary. I think that a report to the board about the work we've done and the discussions we've had in executive session, which has to happen in executive session, and this is really where I'm going with my question to Jim, will be, can we just report that we have been unable to fulfill our process? As a result, we'd like to go into executive session, discuss the process, discuss what went on, and see if we as a board can agree on how to proceed, whether it's to select someone or, and there are a couple of different issues, so that's why it's a question. Maybe it's just not
So
possible.
what is the question to Jim? Cause if it's a question to Jim, we ought to get the answer now.
Yeah.
Now that we have this clarification, I'd like to go back into executive session
For us.
for us to discuss.
So let me just ask you a couple of things to see if there's a way forward here. The way I understand it and the way this practice works, bringing a name from this committee, it can be two people will agree
Yeah.
to one name and one person either abstains or votes no.
Yeah.
Another way it can, and it essentially moves the process forward to the full
Yeah.
board
Yeah, that's what we talked about.
with a name that will be considered in a motion and can be voted down.
But then what? The other two are then
Then-
voted on? I
Yes, then someone else makes a motion.
If the first one's voted down.
So let's say,
So then they're out of consideration, or do you
No,
revote
let
based
me-
on the three?
because
That's-
I have
that's
spent a lot of
something that
time,
No, we
but
got-
I
we
thought
got
that you were just gonna have, and that was gonna be okay to just bring three, I gotta learn what to do about this around parliamentary procedure, 'cause- so let's say nominating committee puts forward name
Name.
one.
Yeah.
And so that goes to the board. And there's a motion for one with a second. And then there's discussion and there's a vote.
3-4 post.
And it goes down. So then the chair says, I will entertain a motion for another nomination from the applicants. So then, next motion. And someone comes up with number 2, where there's a motion and a second. And you vote, and let's say that goes down too.
Yeah.
All right, so then you have the chair entertains another motion for person number 3, and it's seconded.
And it goes down.
And let's just says it's a scenario, so that goes down. So, you could say, golly, what's a conundrum? And that happens apparently a lot when there's a lot of stuff going on and people haven't yet really congealed into consensus.
So
So,
the next motion is to
Then-
reconsider.
then you have somebody, either, at this point, you can table the motion and say,
Maybe table the action.
table the action, and then come back and figure out what to do next, and there's a process I learned about that. Or somebody could start to say, okay, I can really envision that there's a middle place here, so that we can succeed at this. So the first thing is,
I move to reconsider
There's
number 2.
reconsider number 2,
And the people who have to do that will
are
be
the people who voted
no.
no.
Yes.
Yeah, so and they say, so somebody says person went to, well, I could really live with them, it's okay. I get where they could be a contributor to this process. And so and there's a second, and then that vote can be,
Goes the reverse.
could go up. Or it could go
It
down,
could go down, yeah.
in which case you have another reconsideration. And what you're doing in a parliamentary thing, say you're reconsidering number 1, that person's, well, 2, I get through the discussion, because this can go into, discussion and executive session as needed, so each one you're talking. This is really how you move the ball down the field, sort of like football, where it's a ground game and no passing is happening. And then, so you say, well, okay, I hear what we've been working through here. And the thing I realize that we really want is something that maybe one is okay after all. So one comes back, somebody says I voted no last time, so I'm gonna put that person out, cause now I can see there's some consensus for me. And so that gets it seconded and maybe that goes up. If it also goes down, you do it one more time to see if there's somebody who wants to go back to one of these again. You know, it can go back to 2, it could go back to 3. Because what's happening in the process, in the parliamentary process, is that you're trying to help the group figure out how you're balancing things
So
out.
right now, I think that this is the flaw with our group, and I don't know how to move forward from it. But we can't move forward with this situation the way we are.
Yeah.
So
I think we can.
if you'd like to go into executive session to discuss, then I'd be more than willing.
Yeah,
So-
because you'll notice that we gave the report, but we do not,
It's gonna be voted by the board,
we gave the report.
recommendation.
So the nomination from the committee was number 3.
Well, we said you're gonna, yeah, you
No,
put,
the nomination from the committee
Okay,
is,
I put
oh, it's
number
number
one.
1, right, well, it doesn't matter,
Whichever
number
one.
1.
One of
say
them.
you
So
do
there's
number
one name.
3
And the first motion on the floor
is
is
number 1.
number 1.
Nobody's obligated to
Right.
take your name.
Right.
You're just saying,
Okay.
we looked at this, we interviewed the people.
Yeah.
And 2 of the 3 of us thought that number 3
Yeah.
should move forward. But or you could say we all did, but nobody has to agree with you.
Right, right.
I mean, you could
And that's
all,
important to know, is that we give the name,
Then we discuss.
then we don't discuss anything, we give our report, it has a name,
No, but then in the voting process, we would move on.
well, somebody's gotta make the motion.
cause then what I do after the report, I've been, my learning curve is, let's just say steep.
Yeah,
I
so
second
what
the
I
motion.
got
So I'm gonna
is-
move,
Wait, I just finished my sentence and then I'm gonna get out of here so you can go back. But what I learned is that after you give your report, my job is to entertain a motion to move a name forward.
right,
I am not asking to accept your report. You just gave a report.
Yeah.
Nobody has to agree with you. You could disagree
I heard
with
that
your
one.
own report.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, or you could be the one
I got it,
you're just getting the ball onto
Yep.
the field.
Yeah.
And
so I move we go back to
Second.
executive, and I give the pleasure to thank you,
Thank you
Madam
for
Chair,
that.
for doing
see you in a while.
that. All right,
Excuse me, I'll be back.
Wait, we'll wait for you then. I'm gonna definitely need this to do minutes. Unless you don't want me to ask all these questions,
I,
we'll find out.
yeah, I would still ask the question because it's important to know for the future.
And revising this process as well.
And
because
It's
we
very
decided
important to do.
to-
I mean,
yeah.
truthfully, we didn't have anything. It's really an outline of the basic process.
But the answer to this question was the deciding factor for me.
Which question?
John's seat's empty.
Yeah,
Nothing
okay.
else was assured. We don't know what they're gonna do, we're not gonna come back for the 3rd time, we don't have time between now and Wednesday.
Right. So, okay, so I'm, this is page 1, this is 8 nominating committee. Are you ready for someone to make a motion? Is that where you are, or is there more discussion or
I'll
questions?
make the motion.
Alright, so there's a motion.
So I move that we present, is that the correct wording? Present Mike Farrell as our selection to,
As the nominee for.
as a nominee for
this committee.
from this committee. Under the policies that we've reviewed and determined we followed by presenting that nomination.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second is, discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote, all those in favor? Opposed? we have a name. I am going to, type this up. I am gonna ask that I get, maybe Mike, could you help me get a copy of the tape of this thing, the video of this thing, so that I can, type up these questions.
If I can help with that, I would
And if
be
you wanna
willing to
send me
sit
to,
with you even and
I
do it,
would
if you would
love-
like to do that as well.
I
don't know if
would
that's
love
okay with
it.
everyone, or
yeah,
if you want, I don't think Sid would have the time, but the reason I volunteer to do that is because I do think my questions and Tiz's questions being clarified are very important
I do
for the
too. I
future
wanna
of
get it,
whatever
yeah,
decision
for future.
making we
the other, I mean, I'm
proceed
not
with the
trying to
policy.
hold too tightly the job of doing the minutes up. If you wanna get the, Mike Broadbent, can give you a little thumb drive of the video, if you wanna do minutes from it.
Absolutely, I would do that.
Is that,
that-
You give them your notes.
Is that okay? You can send that to me.
okay, so we'll find a way to get some minutes by Jason. I'll type up what I have.
Okay. Can I-
Minutes by Jason and Jason will get the,
And you got our last one, so you get it format.
we'll get
Yeah.
the, thumb drive from Mike.
And can I also request the last two meetings, I think are still not online. I think that's correct. May was the last one, maybe there may have been
You mean for the full board
June,
meeting?
yes. And the reason is I'd like to just verify some of that. This is personal, so publicly, we need to get that up. But if it's something that's quick and it's okay for me to just get the video for
Oh,
now.
yeah, it's still okay, but
Then-
I will get up.
I have a copy of the thumb drive from the last meeting,
Yeah.
Okay.
which I'm happy to give you.
Alright, and so that, I'm not sure I'll have to check to see which one wasn't on, I was looking for one.
Yeah, I haven't looked at them
Okay.
online recently, but
Okay.
instead of getting meeting videos online, I thought that Tanya said they were there.
Okay, I'll have to check them, maybe.
Because when I talked to her about it the other day, she said, yeah, the website's up, I just haven't had a chance to look at it. All right, yeah, I have one,
After you review one, you're gonna see we need to improve the quality of the voice, either
Yeah.
microphones down here, cause I
Well,
went through the May one.
Found that with the May
Measure
one.
Emily.
That was my problem, I
The-
couldn't hear.
Andy was the most important voice and you couldn't hear him most of the time.
So I think just to, in terms of clarification, are we all set, and then other details we can talk
Yeah.
about if needed, so I'd like to make the motion that we
Adjourn.
adjourn at
I'll
this
second
point.
that.
all those in favor? Okay,